It looked like she was staring straight at me, though I wondered if her eyes had adjusted to the darkness yet. The way her fingers were searching the lines of my face made me feel like she was using them to try to read my expression. "Where did all this tolerance come from?" she asked skeptically. I felt remorseful yet again. I truly had been a tyrant, I thought with a sigh. I decided you were right. My problem before was more about my prejudice against werewolves than anything else. I'm going to try to be more reasonable and trust your judgment. If you say it's safe, then I'll believe you. Please say you don't think it's safe and that you're never going back, I thought. Wow. I felt my heart sink as I waited hopefully for her to tell me the words I longed to hear. She had had enough. She understood why it was best to stay away. I struggled to remember that even if she hadn't changed her mind, there was another reason for my compromise. And, most importantly, I'm not willing to let this drive a wedge between us. Without another word, she laid her head back down on my chest, and I could feel her breathing steady. She was happy, and I had to believe that that was all that mattered. "So," I said, casually starting to fish for the most crucial pieces of the puzzle, "did you make plans to go back to La Push again soon?" She didn't speak. I could hear her heart start to speed up again. She didn't want to say the words out loud. I suddenly felt foolish to have thought one bad day was enough to keep her from Jacob. Once again, I underestimated the place he had in her life. Not wanting her to think I was going back on my words, I quickly added, "Just so I can make my own plans. I don't want you to feel like you have to hurry back because I'm sitting around waiting for you." "No," she said, a touch of sadness apparent in her tone. "I don't have any plans to go back." The curiosity was getting to me, but I didn't want to push her. I was honestly so thrilled to hear she wasn't planning a return trip. I didn't care if she kept the reason from me forever. "Oh, you don't have to do that for me," I offered, though I knew it wasn't about me. "I don't think I'm welcome anymore," she said, her voice soft and almost shaking. I was taken aback. I had been assuming from Alice's description that Bella had left because she was upset and wanted to get away. It never occurred to me she no longer felt wanted there. "Did you run over someone's cat?" I teased, now wondering what she had done to wear out her welcome. As far as I had seen, Jacob was borderline obsessed with having her around. "No," she said dismally. "I thought Jacob would have realized. I didn't think it would surprise him." She paused, as if what she was about to say was causing her physical pain. I was overcome with a sinking feeling, understanding what she meant before she had finished explaining. "He wasn't expecting that it would be so soon." "Ah," I breathed. Of course it made sense that Jacob would have gotten angry with her when forced to think about her transformation. It was difficult for me to think about it, and it meant I got to be with her forever. How much more painful it must be for him. It means the end of whatever relationship they have, the end of hope. He must have lashed out at her, though I assume he was still managing to hold on to enough control that it was only verbal. Though a part of me hated to admit it, I had seen the purity of how Jacob cared for her. It would take a lot more than that to anger him enough to phase and risk hurting her. I watched Bella closely, her eyes close to tears, wondering what he had said to cause her so much grief. "He said he'd rather see me dead," she finally said, her voice cracked, her expression cold and miserable. Although I had thought I'd only feel nothing but gratitude for whatever Jacob had done to push her away, in that instant I could only hate him for having caused her such pain. I wanted to rip him apart for being so selfish, so infantile. I pulled Bella close, holding her and trying to make the agony go away. "I'm so sorry," I breathed, pressing my lips to the top of her head. "I thought you'd be glad." There was a hint of bitterness in her voice, though I couldn't tell if it was directed at myself or at Jacob. "Glad over something that hurt you? I don't think so, Bella." I could feel some of the tension in her body dissipate as she nuzzled closer to me, seemingly relieved by my response, though I couldn't imagine how she could have thought any differently. Did she really think me selfish enough to wish that kind of pain on her, simply to rid myself of that cretin? I could think of a much better way to rid us of him entirely, but I doubted if Bella could ever be that angry with him. "What's wrong?" she asked, pulling me from that thought, which was probably a good thing. "It's nothing," I said, not wanting to upset her further. "You can tell me." I debated, curious what her reaction would be. "It might make you angry," I warned. "I still want to know." I sighed. She left me no choice. Bella was never good at letting things go. "I could quite literally kill him for saying that to you. I want to." To my great surprise, she laughed, though I could tell she was slightly uncomfortable. I hoped she knew me well enough to know I would never act on that thought, at least not without her permission. "I guess it's a good thing you have so much self-control." "I could slip," I offered. "Just say the word." To my surprise, her voice, her entire mood, suddenly shifted. "If you're going to have a lapse in control, I can think of a better place for it," she said sweetly, touching my face and attempting to kiss me. Worried that my self-control had already been pushed to its limits once today, I stopped her before she could start again. "Must I always be the responsible one?" I asked. My words did nothing to deter her. She was a woman on a mission. "No," she said, smiling widely up at me. "Let me be in charge of responsibility for a few minutes. Or hours." "Good night, Bella," I insisted, though I knew she wasn't thinking at all about sleep.
"Wait, there's something else I wanted to ask you about."
"What's that?"
"I was talking to Rosalie last night."
I breathed in deeply, frozen in place. I didn't know if I was up for this discussion. While a part of me hoped Rosalie's words had gotten through to her, given her a reason to reconsider her decision, I was equally terrified of what that would mean if it were true. Perhaps Rose was right. Bella hadn't really been thinking of all she was giving up. What if now that she was forced to think about it, she realized she couldn't give up the possibility of having children? The thought might save her humanity, but it could also cost me her love and dedication. It was something I would never be able to give her. The thought of it made me loathe my existence more than I had felt in a long time. "Yes," I finally said, preparing myself for whatever was about to be said. "She was thinking about it when I got in. She gave you quite a lot to consider, didn't she?"
"She told me a little bit. About the time your family lived in Denali."
Baffled, I tried to quickly shift through what I'd heard, but whatever Rose had said about Denali was no longer on her mind when I got home. "Yes?" I prompted.
"She mentioned something about a bunch of female vampires. And you."
Oh no, I didn't want to have this conversation. Being stuck in an endless existence has a few downsides no one really wants to think about, like literally never living down humiliating moments. Not that I had ever done anything particularly inexcusable, but the situation with Tanya's clan was not something I wanted to be reminded of, ever, least of all by Rosalie.
"Don't worry,"
Bella said, attempting to sound casual.
"She told me you didn't show any preference, but I was just wondering, if any of them had. Shown a preference for you, I mean."
It was like I was there again, being bombarded by their lust-filled thoughts, and as hard as I tried, I couldn't block out the memories. Irina and Kate were more discreet than Tanya, never making their intentions known out loud. They were actually quite embarrassed when they learned I could hear them. Tanya, however, well, subtle was never her style.
"Which one?"
Bella asked when I remained silent.
"Or was there more than one?"
I knew it was unfair, not saying anything, letting her think the worst, but I was finding it nearly impossible to form the words, especially since thinking of Tanya had also reminded me of one of the darkest times in my life. Right after I'd first caught Bella's scent and fled like the coward I was, I'd made the mistake of returning to Denali. I'd given Tanya the wrong impression, and felt miserable for it.